It made me swear in oath of secrecy. I couldn't tell a soul what it told me. No, I can't tell you what it told me. No, I can't tell you what it told me. No, I can't tell you what it told me. No. I can't tell you what it told me, no. I can't tell you what it told me, no. I can't tell you what it told me. I can't tell you what it told me. I can't tell you what it told me, no.
You've been listening to Relax Time Radio on Radio Thailand Chiang Mai.
Watch our live stream on YouTube and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
All right, we're back. Those songs were Poolside Around the Sun, then Colors in the Dark by Ladyhawk, and finally Closed Loop by Elliot Moss. While we were away, we were trying to fix our YouTube live stream and couldn't. What we think we're going to do is we've started recording it and we'll upload it afterwards. So you'll have missed, I suppose, if you were to watch. You're listening to us now. It doesn't make sense to be talking to you about this. But you know, we'll upload it. Okay, best we can do. So thank you for being here with Mon and I. We're talking about procrastination. We've introduced it, what it is, why we do it, and now we're gonna look at some ways to either fix it or work with it, right?
Yes.
Okay. So where should we start? Your question's an interesting one. Why can procrastination be helpful?
Right. So I think a lot of people who kind of struggle with procrastination think that they should be getting rid of it or become super productive, efficient, whatever. But they miss out on the very good benefits of procrastination when they actually would be using it in a targeted or very purposeful way. So why can procrastination be helpful? Well, if you look at what procrastination is again, right, is delaying and postponing certain actions. And one of the things that you've mentioned was that you do it because of the energetic, of the energy you have to put into doing like these task switch. So if we look at how or why procrastination can be really, really useful is especially for people who do a lot of brain work, creative work, strategic work.
Mm-hmm.
Because it can help to actually rebuild that energy that you need and those creativity that you need, and this it can actually bring back what I call like your brain mass that you work with, right? So because I think we talked about in one of our episodes about how we are depleting our brain mass every single day, and by the end of the day there's just nothing left. So it's like it's called also decision fatigue.
Right.
So you make like however many decisions per day, and that's it. Like you can make more decisions, but they're not going to be good decisions and not high quality decisions, and you might feel like you're totally drunk by the end of the day.
Yeah.
So this is basically, it's kind of like how your brain works. You have these fresh brain cells in the morning, and then by the end of the night, done, right?
But how does procrastination help though?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Good question. So, how does it help? So, the way that it works is because the things that you choose to procrastinate on, you don't spend as much brain mass as on the tasks that you would be supposed to be doing. So here's the thing. Cleaning a bathroom doesn't take really any brain mass off you, because you just kind of do it, right? And in fact, it kind of, in that moment, relaxes you, and it kind of lets your thoughts and your brain just running. There's nothing specifically you have to focus on. There's no things you just clean the damn bathroom, right?
Yeah.
If you now, for example, let's say you are, okay, I give you an example from myself. So when I start procrastinating, I usually start watching interviews from like Tom Billier on impact theory or whatever on YouTube. And the reason why is because it doesn't take any brain mass for me to listen and learn.
It's passive. It's sort of passive.
Yeah. And kind of the knowledge just drips through into my brain because I'm an autodidact. I don't need much to learn from someone who talks to me, right? I can remember things when you tell them to me. So it's very, very easy for me. So if I try not to procrastinate, I shouldn't be going on YouTube and put impact theory on, right? So now the question is probably like, how can we purposefully use it to actually accelerate our productivity, creativity, and so on, right? So here's one way how you can do it. First of all, you want to track yourself over a period of time. Best is like at least 7 to 21 days. So it should be at least for a full week. You want to watch yourself and you want to look at what are the tasks that you're procrastinating on and which activities do you choose to procrastinate with. So those two things will tell you a lot about what it is, for example, that you're either afraid of or tasks that you shouldn't be doing at all, right? So you should be getting them off your list. Or maybe you're not yet at delayed gratification for these tasks, or you don't see the value of delaying gratification, whatever it is for this first part. And for the second part, if you, for example, there are people who are really creative, right? And they do a lot of creative work. So let's say we have writers. But then they procrastinate by actually scribbling little comics or drawing or dancing or making music or whatever. And that's their way to actually get away from the writing jobs. And it's another creative thing, but it doesn't actually need as much brain mass for them to write things. So the way that you should be purposefully using is, for example, schedule time to procrastinate. So I remember we talked about you writing this book, translating this book, right? English to Thai, or the other way around?
Thai to English, yeah.
Right. So Thai to English, and you said like, I want to get it done I want to be done with half of the book in 3 months. And then I had a quarter in the first 3 weeks. So I was procrastinating on the rest of the time, right? So instead of doing like so much of work in such a short time and then basically procrastinating the rest of the time, what you could have done, or you could do for the next book if you ever choose to translate another one, you could do a week full of translating work, getting into it, right? And then you choose a full day or 2 days to literally do whatever comes to your mind that's on your procrastinating list. Music, probably. You do maybe a lot of music. Maybe you read about music. Maybe you listen to a lot of music. Maybe you, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And do this purposefully and schedule this time in. And then after these 2 days, you put another 5 days of writing. And this is gonna repeating itself. And what it does is it helps you to basically restore this creative energy for the writing, or the brain mass for the writing.
I've got you. Yeah. That's interesting. The only problem I can see with that, like just based on my experience, is that the way I procrastinate anyway is that there's anxiety starts to build up. I would call it like, I mean, I feel like there's a cost to it. You're saying that maybe there's some of the things we do when we procrastinate don't use as much brain mass, etc. But sometimes the sort of loop in my head of should I do it, should I not, should I do it, should I not, itself is a bit like that never made choice, and that sort of like takes away, it burns through your brain, I think.
Totally. But then if you schedule procrastination, that takes away the loop of thinking about should I do it or should I not. And then again, so for example, you don't have to go like full weeks in writing and then do full 2 days of procrastination. You could, for example, schedule each day half an hour of procrastination, depending on what you see in this 3 weeks that you're but tracking yourself, right?
Yeah.
So if you feel like, well, I actually can stick to my work for a couple of days, but then I get really distracted.
Okay. Yeah, I've got you. I have like okay. So when we talked about goal setting and achieving goals, I said I had nothing to say because I recognize that that's a tricky area for me. In procrastination, I do procrastinate a lot. I think probably like most people, but I also have like some successes against it. So
awesome.
what's worked? Some of the things like I've done that have worked for me are, and these are just small actual actions. Let's just say, I deleted a lot of apps from my phone.
Yeah.
I deleted Facebook and Twitter and this kind of thing, and that forces me. I still use them sometimes, but it forces me to sort of use them a little bit at the end of the day, maybe on the computer, and I spend a lot less time. And that's just one thing that I think anybody could like think about doing, and I've met friends that have done this. Another thing is, and this is like my favorite thing of all, and I forget it all the time. It's frustrating to me that I keep forgetting things that work. It's odd. I find it odd. But yeah, asking a smaller amount of yourself. So for example, if you're procrastinating about something which might seem like a huge task, so let's just say you had to write an article, and the article was 3,000 words long, and you're putting off a 3,000 word article. So instead, what has often worked for me is, let's say it was a translation of a chapter as well, if I just say to myself, never mind that, I'm going to be just stop the procrastinating, and I'll be happy if I've translated a sentence or a paragraph.
Yeah.
That can really work, because by the time, the sentence might be too short, but by the time you've translated a paragraph, you're already back into it.
Yeah.
And it's much more fun than the procrastinating was.
Yeah.
And,
totally.
So.
Yeah, 100%. So these are all amazing things that you can do to get around or work with the procrastination to not procrastinate at all, right?
Yeah.
But you do, and I highly recommend actually like to use procrastination as well in tiny amounts and scheduled basically to accelerate as well your results, right?
So like, could you think of it as daydreaming? Because do you have to call it procrastination? It's like, if you schedule procrastination, can it really be, it seems such a weird thing, idea.
I think what really is like the difference then if you just schedule in procrastination, it is still procrastination because you delay and postpone the action.
You're still putting off what you
yeah.
intend to do.
Yeah,
what you have
totally.
To do. Yeah.
But you are not distracted anymore during the actually work. Because if we look at it like if you're following any notifications on the phone or any article that pops up, and I just gonna read this one article, and 10 articles later you're like, oh damn, I just like you just followed down the rabbit hole into BuzzFeed or whatever.
Facebook drives me insane. Sometimes I open it because I had a specific person I wanted to, I don't know, say happy birthday or something, and then the page loads, but my eye instantly goes to the red thing. You've got 9 notifications. I could have gone through like 9 notifications and totally forgotten what I originally planned to do.
Yeah, 100%. 100%, and it happens
It's mad.
for sure. I have on my laptop actually installed. It's called the newsfeed Eradicator. So when I go on my laptop, I cannot see the newsfeed whatsoever. There's nothing on there. There is a motivational quote, and that's it. Because when I go on the laptop, I would definitely just sit down, and because I do have to do some things on Facebook sometimes, right? And so when I do have to go and message people, or I do have to post up something, this is what I do. I go, I post it, I message these people, and I'm done, and I log out. The only thing is, like, for me, I do have it on my phone because I am quite a bit, like, out and about. So then on the phone, it doesn't work with the newsfeed Eradicator, so that's a little bit more tricky.
Like, first of all, like, you've got to, I mean, it's depends on who you are and what you're doing. A lot of people's work is very revolves around social media. And for some people, it is their work to be on and be busy on social media. So that's a different thing, you know.
But then, honestly, like, I see a lot of people, they're saying, like, oh, I have to be on social media all day long. I'm sorry, but that's not true. Even if you're an influencer, even if you're, like, you can be on social media for an hour a day, and you can have millions of followers and still be an influencer and grow your following and whatever. Like, you do not have to spend 8 hours a day. And everyone who tells me they need to spend 8 hours a day on social media, I think they're doing it wrong. Yeah, they procrastinate there too. Yeah, so I think one way how to use procrastination is really to, and again, there can be activities that do use a lot of brain mass too, but the difference is to get away from what you were doing before or what you wanted to do before, and to get your mind off it. And using distraction or procrastination to actually, just refill this part of the brain, let's say, is really, really good. And no matter if you're doing like a full day or it's just like half an hour a day or 5 minutes every hour or whatever it is that works for you.
Yeah. I found a quote which is basically from a website. It just a website that was a study in procrastination, and it sort of backs up what I was talking about just now. About, I mean, I know you. Okay, we're talking about two slightly different things, and I guess people can use both in different ways, right? They can use procrastination, but also if you want to sort of, if you're talking about leaving it behind in the moment when you're leaving it behind to start something, basically, if you want to not put too much strain on your willpower or brain mass or whatever you want to call it, then you need to form habits. Yeah. And so there's this 2-minute rule about habit forming, which is that when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do.
Right.
Which is, makes sense, isn't it? Because it would be really hard to anything, right? Like I said, you translate a sentence or something, or whatever it is that you need to do. Habit is not going to form. There's a great big hurdle that you have to get over before you can do it.
Yeah, totally. Like, there is there's a lot of out there about habits and a lot of wrong information. Like, a habit takes between 30 and 60 days to form, which is not true. The average is actually 66 days, and the University of London has proven that easy habits can take only 18 days, but hard habits to form, which would be, for example, if you haven't been going to the gym and your goal is to go 3 to 5 times a week to the gym for like 1 hour a day, this is a hard habit to form. It can take up to 218 days to actually form this habit.
Yeah, I remember we talked about this before, and my experience of this was when I was learning saxophone. Yeah. It's so hard in the beginning that to become someone who wants to practice every day for however long, that takes quite a long time. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, very much. And so I totally agree. Like, if you want to, okay, so let's go from using procrastination to breaking it, basically, right?
Yeah.
So I think I think this is my first answer to almost everything. The first thing you want to do is become aware. So if you are aware that you do actually procrastinate that's awesome. That's the first step you've done. Now, the best thing that you can do is using timers. I know that sounds so weird, but if you recognize, okay, I'm actually procrastinating right now, then set yourself a timer and give yourself 5 more minutes. And then do this thing what you're doing. Scroll, look at whatever, watch this video. But when this timer is up, you have basically 5 seconds to go and get back in, right? So the timer is up and it beeps and you have 5 seconds to get back up and start. Because the longer you take, the more resistance you build up as well. So you should just be getting up and go back into this task. So this is one thing, right? I loved how you said like breaking the tasks down. It's a very, very, very amazing tool to do, especially for people with ADD or ADHD or however you want to call it. Or who have just simply troubles of focusing for very long. A lot of people, they jot tasks down on their list that sound like you're gonna take like 4 weeks for one of these tasks, right? Like it's gonna be impossible to do one of these tasks in 24 hours.
That's like conceptual science, isn't it? List making. You have to learn. It takes a long time to learn what kind of things belong next to each other on a list, and what's so you could have like lists for the day and for the week. Most to-do apps have this kind of thing. They break things down into the day, the week, etc. But there are some things that you might write on a list or on a piece of paper, but really they're the sort of like life goal things that take a year or longer to achieve, and they don't belong next to do the laundry, on a list.
Yeah. And then again, right, if you look at it, it would be super helpful if you just look at like how long does it take me to do the laundry. So it's like sorting the clothes, putting them in, putting the machine on, then the machine runs, taking it out, hanging the laundry up if you don't have a dryer, for example. So in total, it probably takes you like maybe 20 minutes.
I saw this article a while back about people who are always late, and they were saying that people who are always late, they plan things out, but they just they always underestimate the amount of time that things will take.
Yeah.
And they they'll, for example, allow half an hour for something, but then no time, zero time, like literally zero time to get from the end of that something to a meeting or something.
Yeah.
And
no buffer time, nothing.
No buffer time.
Yeah.
I've done that in the past. I'm not always late, but I've been late, and when I have been late, I recognize this problem that I've, just in the perfect world, hitting every green light and all of these things. That's how I've sort of planned something out. And that's realistic time assessment is important, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think a lot of times it's not only underestimating the time, but I also gotta say they overestimate themselves. And it's because we want to be able to do all of these things, but then we can't. Like I'm not putting any limitations on someone. There are people out there, they can do like anything they want in like 24 hours. And we do have the ability to learn that. But again, it's a skill. It's a skill set. Like you got to learn how to be focused and get into state. Like everyone can learn it, right? But not many people do. They don't take the time. Again, it takes time as well. And the thing is then, again, after a certain amount of decisions and tasks and choices and whatever, your brain is just totally depleted. So then it takes you 2 times, 3 times longer. And so it's super interesting. Like I do have friends, they always run late, or they say like, oh, it's going to take me half an hour, and 90 minutes later, they're still not done. And very interesting.
Yep. Okay, so let's play those songs that you sent me and come back and give our top 3 tips for increasing creativity and productivity. And also you wanted to mention what we should be careful with when using procrastination as a tool. So you've talked about using it as a tool, but I guess you have a warning to go with that as well.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So we'll be back shortly.
Yay.
Thanks for being with us. This is Music Fills Your Soul by Siru.
Hang out all your worries, hey. Let the music fill your soul. Oh, hang up, all your worries head. Let the music fill your soul. Oh, hang up, all your worries head. Let the music fill your soul. Oh, hang up, all your worries head. Let the music fill your soul. Oh, hang up, 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 and let the music fill your soul. Oh, 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 Lord, oh, 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 Clap your hands and stamp your feet until you feel with love. Clap your hands and stamp your feet until you feel with love. Clap your hands and stamp your feet until you feel with love. Clap your hands and stamp your feet until you feel with love.
Shining down on me. So you chipped your nail, you stubbed your toe, you lost your phone. Life's a rolling stone on a broken roller coaster. Scream shit, move on. Throw your hands up, move on. It's all good. Today's your day. Time is filled with swift transition. Put yourself in good position if you want. Things can go your way. Ain't no time to smell the roses. Gotta get to where to go. There's the road's already been paved. Here I go, ready now. Coming for you, can't nothing stop me. I got some things I gotta do. Hey, 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 hey. I'm making a move. Study long, study wrong. Ain't nothing gonna happen on its own. I'm making a move. Don't need no hickeys for this song. I got joy all through my soul. I'm making a move. Get up, get out. Mr. Sun is shining on me. I'm making a move. I'm to play. You gotta move, you can't lose. Get in the groove, you can't lose. Speed bumps only make you aware. It starts in your heart, so reach for the stars. You know you got charm, you can't do no harm. I hope you're prepared, cause when you get there, you'll be laughing and wilding like the principal there. Here I go, ready now, I'm coming for you, can't nothing stop me. I got some things I gotta do. Hey, 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 hey. I'm making a move. Study long, study wrong. Ain't nothing gonna happen on its own. I'm making a move. Don't need no hinges for this song. I got joy all through my soul. I'm making a move. Get up, get out. Mr. Sun is shining on me. I'm making a move. Got my lucky charms, time to move along. Yeah, I'm making a move. I'm making a move. Got this feeling, yeah. Got this feeling, yeah. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. I got this feeling, yeah. Got this feeling, yeah. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. I'm making a move. Study long, study wrong. Ain't nothing gonna happen on its own. I'm making a move. Don't need no hinges for this song. I got joy all through my soul. I'm making a move. Get up, get out. Mr. Sun is shining on me. I'm making a move. Got my lucky charms, gotta move along. Yeah, I'm making a move. Might as well choose the daily. I'm making a move. I'm making a move. Move out my way, devil.
You've been listening to Relax Time Radio on Radio Thailand Chiang Mai.
Watch our live stream on YouTube and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
All right, we're back. So that was, I'd never heard either of those songs. Those are great songs. Siru, Music Fills Your Soul, followed by Making a Move by Lady Bree.
Yeah,
Nice ones.
thank you.
Okay, so what should we be careful with when using procrastination as a tool?
Well, the most obvious one is to not procrastinate on the procrastination. I mean, what can happen is you're scheduling procrastination and then the timer goes off and you're like,
Let's do some more of that.
Yeah.
Let's do some more of that good old procrastination.
Yep, truly. And also, I think I've seen quite a few times where people tried using it as a tool, basically, but all they've done were depleting more of their energy because they haven't been able to get the right kind of the right balance. And I don't mean like 50-50 balance, but I mean like the right setting of what suits them with when should they procrastinate on what and why. So they think like, oh, I'm just gonna always schedule some time to procrastinate, but then that doesn't help you, right? It should be really on very daunting or long tasks, on tasks that you may be afraid of, that you can break down into very small ones and then have some time in between. So yeah.
Yep. Okay. So are we ready for the 3 tips then? Top 3?
I think
top
so.
3?
What are your top 3 favorite procrastination tips? So I think we should be talking about the ones when we can use procrastination as a tool.
Oh.
Or actually to get out of it. It doesn't matter.
I've never tried that, so I don't know.
Just give your 3 favorite anti or pro procrastination tips.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm going to have to go with sort of like anti.
Yeah.
I suppose, yeah. One is Well, I mentioned it like maybe a couple of weeks ago that I'd started to. This was when we were talking about creativity. That I started to try and write down my first thoughts in the morning because they were like fresh from a fresh brain, an untired brain, and like connected to dreams and the unconscious. But also writing things down before bed, or like preferably writing down, but even just thinking over what you have to do the next day, so that you can sort of put it out of your looping mind. You know what I mean? And relax a little bit. Then this is, and both of these are things that I just don't do anywhere near often enough, but they definitely have worked when I've done them. And another thing is to like take a few minutes to meditate or mull over what I have to do that day when I've woken up, instead of just like jumping on the first thing that sort of comes at me, replying to messages, etc., etc. Actually, to sort of think through, because that can help you to. I mean, lists obviously can help. Properly done lists, checklists, etc. But just spending a few minutes to think through what you have to do can really put the things naturally in order of importance in your mind, and you can just start to see the sequence of how it might work out.
Yeah.
That can help. And another thing, this is something that really amazes me about the mind. So sometimes maybe I've started like binge watching some TV after feeling, maybe I had been doing some work before the whole binging started, but it's amazing how far you can go. Like, I found that I can go hours past when I no longer enjoy the TV anymore. And that's when a little bit of mindfulness can help to check in with yourself, as because sometimes you, like, even if you're literally watching your favorite show, but if you've watched it 10 episodes in a row, you really should be able to notice, you would, I think, if you checked in with yourself, that you're no longer enjoying it anywhere near as much as the beginning.
Yeah.
For one, it just like your brain can only sort of take so much of the same kind of food, right? It wants something different to do. Two is, at some point, some part of your mind has started to tell you should be doing something else.
Right.
And you put it off because it's painful to like turn away from. But yeah, really, it's amazing how long you can do something that you're no longer enjoying.
Yeah, totally. All right, so my top 3 favorites, let me think about it a little bit very quickly, obviously. So, I guess I'm going then with the tips to how to use procrastination as a tool. I think the most helpful one is really how, like, to track yourself. And the thing that you can use is, like, for example, some very simple time trackers online. There are free tools out there that you can use. For the simple reason of, if you start a task and the moment that you realize you're being distracted from this task, you want to stop it and kind of check in, like, how long have you been distracted? But then also just, kind of, scheduling in how long have you been distracted and with what. So it's like really, really important that you can get like the awareness first. So track yourself for a few weeks at least. And then I'm all about writing things down. So I think that can help with both of the things, to stop procrastinating and to use it as a tool. Just to write out, and I recently started that as well, what's going on in your day. Like, was there something that really pissed you off, or that really made you angry, or maybe that really was joyful for you? Oh my God, that brought you so much bliss. You should be doing that more often. Or things that really just got you off track or actually triggered you to be distracted. So you might as well prevent them the next time. So just write them down, because I realized there were a few things like that I literally didn't enjoy, people I didn't want to speak to anymore, like kind of these things, so I had to take action on that. And then the third thing is to find something that really energizes you, no matter if that is going to the spa or drawing or dancing, or if it's writing, or if it's whatever the heck it is, even if it's researching or learning about neuroscience, even if it takes a lot of brain mass, it doesn't matter. But choose something that really energizes you, that you can use in those times that you want to procrastinate on another big tool, that actually also always makes you feel so good that you are kind of motivated and inspired afterwards to get back to this other work.
Yeah, that's a really good one. That's my favorite one. But that can be tricky. I'm often amazed at how, like, sometimes you can sort of, let's say when you're procrastinating, you know, in your case, you would be deliberately doing, but say you're learning something, watching one of those videos you mentioned, or you know, reading about something in Wikipedia. Sometimes when you're learning something, you hit something of real interest to you, and you do feel incredibly energized.
Yeah.
You know, better than caffeine by what you're learning.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always go that way.
Right. But so, and that's the point, right? And it's going to take you a little bit of literally tracking yourself, learning about yourself, just observing yourself, how you feel. There will be topics, like I do have specific topics. If I learn about them, every single time, I promise you, I want to jump back into my work afterwards.
Okay.
So then I'm going to choose these topics, whether or not I know already like halfway around the world about it or not, right? But there are topics that I sit there and I love learning about them, but I know that afterwards I'm sitting there and for another half an hour I'm just gonna ponder about what happened just there, what they told me about, right? But then that doesn't work because it's just gonna hold me back from working. So it's a bit more about like choosing well.
I heard recently one of my favorite musicians, Esperanza Spalding, talk about she'd been asked by some scientists to sit in a MRI scanning machine, a functional magnetic resonance imaging machine, while she was improvising. And they showed her, you know, late after. I think they could actually show her in real time as well, but they showed her afterwards what her brain was doing in this time. And she was surprised by apparently, you know, the sort of creative areas of the brain were really activated, and this default mode network, this area which is constantly thinking about self and personal, you know, thinking about self was like really deactivated. And I forget a little bit what they said, but it's basically, you know, that it was really resting. So so she decided to herself that she's already like a musician that plays all the time, but she decided to herself that improvising was like so important to her, so restorative, you know.
Yeah.
And that's something like I can relate to as well. Like as a musician, those moments when you're just kind of like free flowing.
Yeah.
How restorative those are.
Yeah.
And often it can just be being in nature, because nature is really
Oh,
unpredictable sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, the sounds and where everything's coming from, and the clouds and changing sky and everything.
100%. Yeah, for me it's nature too, but it's also the just letting go and dance kind of thing. Because there is no way that a thought could come up about, you know, doubting myself, question, whatever. Just what you explained, there's no space, because everything that's taken over my brain is literally the bliss of the...
Yeah, I think that's an excellent example. Yeah,
going into this world. I'm literally out of space when I do this. Yeah, it's not often enough though, indeed.
Yeah. All right, shall we wrap it up there?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry we couldn't bring you our video. I think we've recorded part of the show. I'm going to see if I can find that file now and post it later. Yeah, have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for listening, those of you out there. We've enjoyed, as we always enjoy, like discussing our topics, our travel. We haven't done a travel one for a while. Let's do a travel one soon, shall we?
Okay.
Yeah, travel,
Next
social
Friday,
impact,
travel.
and entrepreneurship. Let's do something on travel soon. Yeah.
If you like a specific travel topic, just put it on our Facebook page and we'll get to it.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, if you'd like us to cover some aspect of travel or some place in the region, for example, yeah, let us know on the Facebook page, Relax Time Radio. For now, we're going to leave you with, well, we're almost at the end of the allotted time, so we'll leave you with a minute or so of Thundercat and his new song, Black Qualls.
Yay.
All right, see you next
See you
week.
soon.
Good night, everybody.
I just bought a crib on top of the hill, and I bought a brand new ride, and by keeping it real, ain't nothing wrong if I got it. I'm not living in fear, just being alright. There's no more living in fear. No more living in fear. If we don't talk about it,
I know I got it right, yeah. I'm doing what I don't need
You've been listening to Relax Time Radio on Radio Thailand Chiang Mai.
Watch our live stream on YouTube and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.